You've used Kleenex thousands of times, blown your nose, wiped away tears, cleaned up spills. It's just ... Tissue paper, right? Wrong. That innocent box sitting on your nightstand? It saved lives in the trenches of World War I, not as tissue, as the thing standing between soldiers and poisonous gas that would melt their lungs. This is the story of how a weapon of war became your everyday convenience. And we're telling it backwards. But before we unravel this mystery, quick favor, if you're curious like me, hit that like button. It helps more people discover these hidden stories. Now, let's go back in time. Walk into any store today, CVS, Walgreens, Target, you'll find an entire aisle dedicated to facial tissue. Kleenex owns this market so completely that their brand name became the product itself. Hand me a Kleenex, not hand me a facial tissue. They sell over 3 billion boxes worldwide every year. That's billion with a B. Americans alone use 256 tissues per person annually. We take it completely for granted, disposable, convenient, forgettable. But here's what's weird. If you look at what Kleenex is made of, cellulose wadding, a specific type of crepe tissue paper, you might wonder, why this material? Why this specific texture? Why did someone even think to make this? Because nobody wakes up and thinks you know what the world needs? Disposable nose paper. So where did this idea actually come from? What if I told you the answer has nothing to do with comfort and everything to do with survival? Let's go back. By the 1970s, Kleenex had already won. They weren't just selling tissues, they were selling a lifestyle. The disposable culture was in full swing. Their ads showed happy families, women removing makeup, kids with colds, all very wholesome, very normal. But flip back just one more generation. In the 1940s and 50s, something interesting was happening. Kimberly-Clark, the company behind Kleenex, was desperately trying to make you forget something. They were running ads with women, always women, removing cold cream, blotting lipstick. They called it the new sanitary cold cream remover. Why women? Why beauty? Why sanitary? Because they were actively trying to feminize and domesticate a product that had spent decades associated with something much darker, much more masculine. Much more Dudley. See, in the 1920s and 30s, Kleenex wasn't marketed as a tissue at all. You ready for where this goes? Because we're about to enter the war years. And nothing was disposable back then. Everything had to serve a purpose. World War I, 4 years. 20 million dead. And a new kind of horror that the world had never seen before. Chemical weapons, chlorine gas, phosgene, mustard gas. The Germans released it first at Ypres in 1915, a yellowish-green cloud that rolled across no man's land like death itself. Soldiers described it as drowning on dry land. The gas would sear your lungs, blister your skin, blind you. Men would claw at their throats, gasping for air that only brought more poison. The Allies scrambled for a defense. Early gas masks were rudimentary, cloth soaked in urine pressed against the face. Seriously, urine. The ammonia supposedly neutralized the chlorine. It barely worked. They needed something better. Something that could filter out microscopic poison particles while still letting soldiers breathe. And they needed it fast. Enter Kimberly-Clark, a paper company from Wisconsin that had been making newsprint and wrapping paper. Nothing special, but they had been experimenting with something new. Crepe cellulose wadding. They developed this material, thin, layered, highly absorbent cotton-like paper, originally for bandages and medical dressings. It was cheap to produce, disposable, and it had an interesting property. The fibers were dense enough to trap particles, but open enough to allow airflow. Perfect for a filter. The U.S. military placed an urgent order. Kimberly-Clark ramped up production. Their cellulose wadding became Cellucotton, the filtering material inside thousands of gas masks. Soldiers in the trenches were breathing through what would eventually become Kleenex. Literally, the same material, the same fibers. The same manufacturing process. It saved lives, thousands of them. When that yellow-green cloud rolled over the trenches, men would pull on their masks, and Kimberly-Clark's paper filter would stand between them and a horrible death. But here's the twist that nobody talks about. Kimberly-Clark made a fortune, war profiteering. Maybe, but they had a problem coming. The war was ending. November 1919, the guns fall silent, the boys come home, and Kimberly-Clark is sitting on warehouses full of Cellucotton and an entire production infrastructure built for war. What do you do when you've engineered the perfect filter for poison gas ... and there's no more poison gas? The military contracts dried up overnight. Kimberly-Clark had two choices: shut down the Cellucotton production lines and lay off workers, or find a new purpose for this material. They chose reinvention. The marketing team started asking, what else needs filtering? What else needs to be absorbed? What do people need to wipe away? They tried marketing it as a sanitary napkin liner, some success but taboo to advertise. They tried it as a handkerchief substitute. People thought it was weird. Why throw away perfectly good cloth? Then in 1924, someone had a breakthrough idea. Cold cream remover. Marketed to women as a disposable way to remove makeup. Call it Kleenex Clean Plus X, the unknown variable, sanitary, modern, scientific. The ads never mentioned gas masks, never mentioned war, never mentioned death. They show glamorous women, Hollywood stars, beauty routines. But here's what's absolutely wild. It didn't sell well. For years, Kleenex struggled. Women weren't convinced they needed disposable makeup removal. Cloth worked fine. Then Kimberly-Clark received letters. Customer letters, dozens, then hundreds, all saying the same thing. Dear Kleenex, I love your product, but not for cold cream. I use it as a disposable handkerchief. My husband has terrible hay fever. Your Kleenex tissues are perfect for blowing his nose. I have a cold. These are so much more sanitary than cloth handkerchiefs. The customers were repurposing it themselves. They saw what the company couldn't see. That thing you use to filter gas could also filter ... well, everything else coming out of your face. In 1930, Kimberly-Clark pivoted their entire marketing strategy. New ads, don't carry a cold in your pocket, positioning cloth handkerchiefs as unsanitary. Boom, sales exploded. The product that was designed to filter poison gas, marketed as a makeup remover, became successful as a nose-blowing tissue because customers told them what it should be. Think about that. The path from gas mask to tissue box wasn't planned. It was accidental, improvised, discovered by the users, not the inventors. So back to today. Back to that box on your nightstand. Every time you pull out a tissue, you're using technology that was perfected in the trenches of World War I. The same cellulose wadding structure, the same creped fiber technology. The same material that filtered chlorine gas from French battlefields now filters your seasonal allergies. The military needed it to stop death. You need it to stop sniffles. Kimberly-Clark never advertises this history. Why would they? Try Kleenex, originally designed for chemical warfare? Isn't exactly a comforting tagline? But I think it's important we know, because it reminds us that almost everything around us has a hidden chapter. A secret origin, a previous life we've completely forgotten. That disposable thing you don't think twice about? Someone once needed it to survive something terrible. The next time you grab a Kleenex, really look at it. Feel the texture. That's war technology in your hands. That's innovation born from desperation. That's soldiers breathing through paper in the worst conditions imaginable, transformed into something so mundane you throw it away without thinking. History doesn't disappear, it just changes form. If this story blew your mind, smash that like button and subscribe for more reverse histories. We're uncovering the secret origins of everyday things you'd never suspect. Drop a comment telling me which story should I unravel next. Duct tape? Bubble wrap? Super glue? They all have hidden chapters, and we're going to find them. See you in the next chapter.